Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. We have more gaming and PlayStation news, rumours and leaks to go over. The latest rumours and reports going around are that Sony has big plans for 2026, specifically with an update to PSSR. Now, reports suggest that the PlayStation 5 Pro will receive a major update that introduces AMD's Fidelity FX Super Resolution 4, or FSR4 for short. Now, this isn't just a small patch, it's expected to be a big leap in how games look and perform on the PlayStation 5 Pro. Now, for anyone unfamiliar with FSR, this is AMD's image upscaling technology. Basically takes a game running at a lower resolution and then upscales it in a way that makes it look much sharper, almost like it's running in native 4K. The best part is that it does this while keeping performance high. That means smoother frame rates without actually sacrificing the visuals, and with FSR4, which is the latest version, the technology has gotten smarter and even more advanced. Now, the PlayStation 5 Pro uses Sony's own upscaling technology called PSSR, which stands for PlayStation Spectral Super Resolution. This was custom built for the PlayStation 5 Pro to improve graphics and maintain smooth gameplay. But Sony isn't just stopping there. They're working closely with AMD to bring the benefits of FSR4 directly to the PlayStation ecosystem. The goal is to have PSSR evolve to match the same results as FSR4. Mark Cerny, the lead architect of the PlayStation 5, has already spoken about this collaboration. Back in March, he explained that Sony and AMD have been developing a new neural network for the PlayStation 5 Pro. The plan is simple. By 2026, PlayStation titles should be able to use a new and updated version of PSSR that can take the same inputs as FSR4 and deliver near identical results. That means cleaner images, better detail, and more consistency across different games. Now, this isn't going to happen overnight, and Cerny admitted that the process is ambitious and time-consuming. Integrating this kind of technology takes years of research, testing, and working with developers. The PSSR technology built into the PlayStation 5 Pro will be an ever-evolving technology, and we should be seeing large periodical updates to the tech, probably every 2 to 3 years or so. And for the next big PSSR upgrade, Sony is targeting early 2026 for this to take place. And if you're wondering about the power, well, don't worry about the power. The PS5 Pro is no slouch. Cerny mentioned that it can hit 308-bit tops, which puts it in the same ballpark as the AMD's newer GPUs. In other words, the hardware is ready, it's just the software that needs to catch up. FSR4 itself is still a new technology. AMD only launched it earlier this year alongside their Radeon RX 9070 and RX 9060 graphics cards. These cards were revealed at the CES 2025, and AMD made it clear that upscaling would be a huge part of the future of PC gaming. So it's no surprise that Sony wants to ride the wave for the PlayStation 5 Pro, and also, of course, upgrading its own proprietary PSSR technology. So if you already have a PlayStation 5 Pro, the good news is we are going to get this upgrade in 2026. Of course, it's free, which will mean better upscaling and better visuals without pushing the hardware past its limits. Games could look closer to true 4K or even beyond while still running smoothly. This could make a big difference in how next-gen titles feel to play. Of course, we should keep in mind that all of this is still in the rumor stage. Neither Sony nor AMD have officially confirmed 2026 as the rollout, but when you look at the pieces, the new Radeon GPUs, Sony's partnership with AMD, and Cerny's own comments, and the fact that we've got the biggest game of the last decade and the biggest media release of any kind in history launching in May 2026, all the pieces are lining up and starting to fit. Absolute perfect timing ahead of the GTA 6 launch next year. So, what do you think? Would this kind of update make you more excited about the PlayStation 5 Pro? Does this kind of update make you go out and want to buy a PlayStation 5 Pro if you haven't already got one? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and let's move on to some interesting news about InFamous. The series of games is one of those franchises that PlayStation fans still look back on with a lot of love. It wasn't just another superhero game. It carved out its own path. It gave us choices, a sense of freedom, and powers that felt incredible to control back in the day. Now, there's rumors going around which has got a lot of people talking. There's a chance InFamous could make a return. not as a brand new entry from Sucker Punch Productions, but possibly as a remaster handled by another studio. Nate Fox, the game director at Sucker Punch, recently talked about this in an interview. He said the team would actually be very open to letting another developer take on a remaster of the games. And when you think about it, that makes a lot of sense. And this, by the way, isn't the first time we've heard rumors of InFamous either being talked about in sense of a remake or a remaster, or another studio wanting to take on the responsibility of remastering these games. Sucker Punch has always been a studio that focuses on one project at a time. They have in the past come out and confirmed that they only like to work on one game at a time. Right now, their attention is locked onto Ghost of Yotei, post-launch support for the game, and of course, support for the online Legends mode, which launches next year. And what comes after that, well, who knows? If someone else were to revisit InFamous, it would free up Sucker Punch to keep moving forward while giving fans something to enjoy. But to really understand why people are so excited about the possibility of a return of InFamous, we need to go back to 2009. At the time, the superhero genre in gaming was a bit of a weird spot. Sure, there were licensed games like the ones based on movies such as Spider-Man or Batman Begins, but those were hit and miss. Most of them leaned too heavily on the movie tie-ins, which often meant rushed developed games and average-ish gameplay. Then came Batman Arkham Asylum in 2009, which raised the bar for what superhero games could really be. But right around that same time, InFamous was doing something completely different. Instead of adapting an existing comic book hero, it gave us a brand new character, a character called Cole MacGrath. Cole wasn't your typical superhero. He wasn't rich like Bruce Wayne or born with powers like Superman. He was a regular bike courier, someone just trying to make a living until an explosion changed everything. And suddenly, he had control over electricity itself. And with that power came a question: how would you use it? That's where InFamous stood out. It wasn't just about running around the city with cool powers, it was about making choices. And the game introduced a morality system. Do you use your powers to save people, rebuild the city, and be a hero, or do you give in to destruction, taking what you want, and letting fear rule? Remember, as the old famous saying goes, with great powers come great responsibility. What is the direction you want to take? Do you want to be a hero, or do you want to let fear rule? And those choices shape not only the story, but also Cole's abilities and how the world around him reacted. Moving around the city in InFamous felt smooth, it felt fast, it was addictive too. Climbing buildings, gliding through power lines, and launching across rooftops. It gave players freedom in a way few games had at the time. Pair that with explosive combat and you had something truly memorable. And the success of the first game led to more. InFamous 2 expanded the story, added new powers, and pushed the PlayStation 3 hardware even further. Then there was Festival of Blood, a smaller spin-off that let players take on a vampire-themed adventure, which was a fun surprise. And when the PlayStation 4 launched, InFamous Second Son showed us what the franchise could look like on new technology. It introduced new characters, new powers, and became one of the early standouts for the PlayStation 4. After Second Son and its spin-off First Light, the series went quiet. Sucker Punch moved on to Ghosts of Tsushima, which became a massive success in its own right. And since then, fans have really been left wondering, will InFamous ever come back? And that's where this new discussion comes in. Sony has studios like Bluepoint Games and Nixxes. Bluepoint, for example, is known for handling high-quality remakes and remasters like Demon's Souls. Although last time anything was actually mentioned about Bluepoint Games was in reference to them working on a new AAA game. Now, nobody knows if that new AAA game is an existing IP or if it's a brand new IP. That's still undetermined. Nixxes, on the other hand, specializes in bringing PlayStation titles to PC. If InFamous were to return, it's easy to imagine one of these studios being involved. And that also raises some very interesting questions. Would a remaster focus only on updated graphics and smoother gameplay? Or would it be a full remake rebuilt from the ground up with modern technology? And how much should a classic game be changed to fit today's gaming standards? One thing is for certain though, the demand is there. Fans still want to leap across rooftops, unleash powerful abilities, and make those moral choices that define the series. I suppose the big question still remains, will Sony actually sign this off and bring it back? Or is InFamous destined to remain a beloved memory, a product of its time? What do you think, guys? If InFamous came back tomorrow, would you want a remaster of the classics or a brand new entry that takes the series in a fresh new direction? Let me know your thoughts in the comments and let's move on. Battlefield 6 is almost here, and we're just 1 month away from launch, and DICE is putting the final touches on the game. But before players get their hands on it, there's one more major showcase lined up. And this time, it's not about multiplayer, it's not about Battle Royale, and it's not even about the Battlefield portal. We've already seen plenty of those through betas, leaks, and gameplay previews. This upcoming showcase is all about the single-player campaign. The reveal is happening at the Tokyo Game Show 2025, which runs from September 25th to the 20th. And this Tokyo Game Show, honestly guys, every time I turn to any piece of news about gaming, it seems like everyone is waiting for this Tokyo Game Show. It feels like it's going to be one of the biggest ones ever. And this time round, on September the 26th, the spotlight will be on Battlefield 6's campaign mode. The developers, along with members of the English voice cast, will be live on stage to walk us through what they've been working on. The studio's executive teams will also be there to introduce the campaign and give us a first real look at the single-player game. And when people typically think of Battlefield, they think of these massive maps, online games, chaotic fights, and all-out destruction. Multiplayer has always been the main attraction for many people. But that doesn't mean the single-player game doesn't have its place. If you go back, campaigns like Bad Company 1, Bad Company 2, they gave fans memorable characters, humor, and surprisingly, heartfelt moments. Even later games like Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4 offered cinematic story-driven experiences that, while they were not perfect, but they did help round out the package. It's refreshing to see Battlefield doubling down on its single-player campaign. A good campaign just isn't a filler, it's a chance to introduce players to the world, the weapons, the tone and setting of the game, and also the stakes of the conflict that they'll later experience in the multiplayer game. So the question is, could Battlefield 6's campaign finally give fans something on the level of Bad Company again? Is that possible? Something that actually mixes spectacle with personality and doesn't just feel like a tutorial before a multiplayer. And that's what makes this showcase at TGS so interesting. We're not just getting another trailer, we're going to get live introduction, we're going to get gameplay, actual story beats, gameplay sequences, some set pieces, and maybe even hints about the direction of the overall narrative. The timing is also perfect. The campaign showcase happens on September the 26th, and then 2 weeks later, on October the 10th, Battlefield 6 officially launches. And it's the first Battlefield game, honestly guys, since even before 2042. I would say probably Battlefield 1. That was the last time I felt this excited to actually look forward to a Battlefield game. So whatever we get to see at the TGS is likely going to be close to the final product, giving players a real sense of what to expect. For years, Battlefield's franchise has been about scale, huge maps, vehicles, destruction, and chaotic multiplayer. But sometimes the smaller, more personal experiences leave just as much of an impact. If DICE can deliver a good multiplayer and a great single-player game, then Battlefield 6 could end up being one of the most complete entries in this series in a long time. So the question is simple, guys. Will Battlefield 6's single-player mode finally give fans the kind of campaign that we have been asking for? Or will it just end up being an afterthought next to the multiplayer mayhem? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and let's move on. Dead Island 2 has hit a new milestone. The game has now reached over 20 million players worldwide. It's a massive achievement for the game, considering how long and how bad the road was and the development hell that the game went through just to get to release. It first launched in April 2023, and it immediately became Deep Silver's biggest launch ever. Within just 2 months, the game had sold over 2 million copies. That alone would have been pretty impressive, but the player base didn't stop growing. Later, Dead Island 2 landed on Game Pass, which opened the door to millions more players during its time on Game Pass. And more recently, during the Epic Games Store mega sale, the game was actually given away for free. Naturally, that move inflated the numbers even more. Alongside celebrating the milestone, publisher Deep Silver and developer Dambuster Studios confirmed that a brand new entry in the franchise is already in development. While no solid details have been revealed, the teaser image suggests the next game may take place somewhere new, meaning that the Los Angeles setting of Dead Island 2 might not return. Now, this is where the story of Dead Island 2 becomes really interesting, because if you know the history of the game, you know it almost never happened. So back in 2014, Deep Silver revealed Dead Island 2 with a flashy trailer that immediately caught people's attention. At the time, the project was in the hands of Jaeger Development, the same studio behind Spec Ops: The Line. And the plan was for the game to launch in 2015. But by the summer, everything fell apart. Deep Silver announced that Jaeger was out and the project needed a new developer. So in 2016, the job went to Sumo Digital. a studio known for working on a wide variety of projects. And for a while, fans hoped progress was finally being made, but years passed with little to no updates. And by 2019, the game has switched hands yet again, this time to Dambuster Studios, which is an internal Deep Silver team. And then just as Dambuster got started, the COVID pandemic kicked in, slowing everything down even further. And nearly a decade of delays, restarts, and countless rumors later that the project was dead, many fans simply wrote it off as a game that would never actually come to light. But against all the odds, Dead Island 2 finally launched in 2023, and it's actually pretty decent. Not perfect, don't get me wrong, and it wasn't groundbreaking by any way, but it was a nice game, enjoyable, a lot of fun, it kept people entertained before moving on to other games. As I said, a nice game, good experience. Reviews were generally positive. Critics noted that while the gameplay was fun, especially early on, the experience could get repetitive over time. The combat system wasn't the deepest, and the game leaned heavily on mindless fun, which is not a bad thing, right? Some argue that it may not have been worth the full price tag at launch, but still, the general consensus was clear. After so many years of troubled development, Dambuster delivered a solid, enjoyable zombie action game. And of course, as the price goes down into sales and the game gets discounted over the years, it makes the game more attractive. Millions of players jumped in, whether for the over-the-top gore, the tongue-in-cheek humor, or just the joy of smashing zombies in creative ways. So what does that mean for the future? With Dead Island 3, or whatever it ends up being called, already in the works, the series has had a chance to build on this momentum. A new setting could breathe fresh life into the franchise, and fans are already asking the big questions. Will the next entry expand beyond the more linear approach of Dead Island 2? Will it take more risks with combat, story, or open world design? Or will it stick to what worked? Simple, bloody fun that doesn't take itself too seriously. What would you want to see in the next Dead Island game? Should it push for something bigger and more ambitious, or should it double down on the chaotic, mindless fun that made it stand out in the first place? Let me know in the comments, and let's move on. The PlayStation brand is about to hit a huge milestone. This year marks the 30th anniversary of PlayStation's launch in North America and Europe. To celebrate, Sony is putting the spotlight on us, the players. From September the 9th through to September the 23rd, PlayStation fans are being invited to share their most memorable PlayStation moments online. It's a community-driven celebration. Fans can post pictures or videos of their favorite memories on platforms like X or Instagram. These could be anything from your very first unboxing of a PlayStation console, showing off your favorite controller, or maybe capturing an unforgettable moment in a game that stuck with you. To take part, players need to use hashtag PlayStation30Memories and include their name, location, and where that memory began. Sony will be collecting some of the most standout submissions and then showcasing them in a highlight reel later this year. Now, I wonder where they are going to showcase that highlight reel. And it's funny how the event has a closing date of just before the end of September. It's all lining up perfectly, guys. The stars are lining up for something big at the end of this month. So your story, your personal connection to PlayStation could actually be seen by fans from around the world. How cool would it be to have your memory included in the official anniversary celebration? The original PlayStation first launched in Japan back in 1994 before making its way to North America and Europe in 1995. It was a huge turning point for the gaming industry. Sony entered the scene at a time when Nintendo and Sega were dominating, and the PlayStation completely shifted the industry, from games like Final Fantasy and Metal Gear Solid to later milestones with the PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3 and beyond. PlayStation has been a part of gaming culture for generations. For many of us, it wasn't just about the consoles. It was about the memories, the late night gaming sessions with friends, saving up for that brand new release, queuing up for those midnight console launches, or being blown away by a story we'd never experienced before. And that's exactly what this campaign is about. It's not just Sony celebrating themselves, it's Sony celebrating us, the fans who made PlayStation what it is today. Of course, this anniversary isn't only about sharing online stories. Sony has also rolled out limited edition hardware, special quizzes, and even soundtrack releases to mark the occasion. But the PlayStation 30th Memories initiative adds a more personal layer. It's about highlighting how PlayStation has impacted our lives over the past 3 decades. So let me ask you this: what's your own PlayStation memory? Was it the first time you loaded up Crash Bandicoot on the PlayStation 1? Was it exploring San Andreas on the PlayStation 2? Was it the first time you experienced Resident Evil and shat yourself as something jumped out from the window? Or maybe it was the realization that video games can actually make you cry as you witnessed a shocking opening sequence unfold in The Last of Us Part 1. You know what I mean. The scene which could literally make a grown man cry. Whatever it is, chances are it's more than just a game to you, it's part of your own personal story. And now Sony is giving fans a chance to make those stories part of gaming history. The campaign runs until September the 23rd, so if you want to be part of it, the clock is ticking, don't forget to use those hashtags, right? Let me know in the comments what your favourite memory has been over the past 30 years or so, or however long you've been gaming on PlayStation. Okay guys, let me know your thoughts on the articles discussed in the video today. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you on the next video.